by .04 at 48.07 and 48.11. But Agyare-May, he won that 500 indoors with a dive at the line. He really wanted it. Some really exciting races indoors, and I'm sure the finals tomorrow will be similar.
Well, now it's Aon inside of Agyare-May.
We're at WVRI, and we're here with Rodney today, who is a Harvard track star. Hi, Rodney. You want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Rodney. I go to Harvard, like Diana said. Hello.
Where do you call home?
Where do I call home? Worcester. So I've been born and raised in Worcester. I spent majority of my life. I don't know. I said majority. I spent all of my life here. So I definitely call this home. I live kind of near West Boylston, like on the edge, like around Dairy Queen. If you guys know where that is.
Dairy Queen's lit.
Yeah, it is.
Dairy
Bro,
Queen is
especially
really
on a day
nice.
like this.
Yeah, but the thing is, now they have like really long lines of like cars. So
I've
it's
seen
like
that. It'll go into like the street sometimes.
yeah, no, like all the time. So you have to wait like 30 minutes to go on like an ice cream cone. So, and you obviously can't walk inside because of Corona. But yeah, so around that area. So I'm actually not that close to Burncoat, but that's where I call home.
So you went to high school at Burncoat, though, right?
Yeah, I did go to high school at Burncoat. It's like about 3 miles. Oftentimes I'd have trouble like getting to and from school after practice just because it's like so far. It's like an hour walk, and you know how like the winter and stuff is like really like hard. So like it's hard to like walk in the snow. So I'd have to like rely on people to like give me rides to and from practice, which at times like really sucked because it's like you don't want to keep like relying on people to ask them to do things. So yeah.
But as Worcester Voter Registration Initiative, we wanted to get a take on what your experience was like about talking about voting and civics in high school.
Yeah, so we didn't talk about it at all. The short answer.
Womp womp.
Yeah, so there was like, we really didn't go over it. They kind of didn't urge us to vote or anything. So yeah. The first school I went to was Norbeck, which is like, wait, did you go to Norbeck?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Ooh.
cool. Did you go to Norbeck?
No, I did not. I went to her street, the Nelson Place.
Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, so I went to school at Norbeck. That was cool. It was just like a regular elementary school. Although it was kind of new, it was built in like 1999.
It's a super nice building.
It is, yeah.
Super nice.
Yeah, like especially for an elementary school, it's like very high quality. So I went there, and then I just went to Burncoat Middle and Burncoat Senior High. Yeah, like we weren't required to like take any classes on like voting registration, like how to vote, and like nobody ever really taught me how to do that growing up. Like my mom's an immigrant, so like for a lot of the time she couldn't even vote. So
Same here.
yeah.
I just got my mom registered like last year, I think last year.
Yeah.
I filled out the census, the 2020 census for my family
Hey, okay.
like recently.
Yes.
That's really important too. Like you guys should all fill out the census because the government like chooses where to like allocate their funding based on like where people like are populated and things like that. So it's like really important that you fill that out.
And for a lot of people too, especially as immigrants, like Worcester has a lot of immigrants. I think we're all immigrants, right? Is that correct? Or
Probably, yeah.
children of immigrants.
Children
or
of
immigrants,
immigrants
right?
are immigrants,
right. And one of the things is that like you don't, when filling out the census isn't going to like harm you as far as if there is any form issues with like paperwork or forms, like you're not going to get in trouble from the government. The census is literally just to count how many people are there so they can know how much money to, like you said, allocate to our resources so that we can get students the funding they need so that we can get bathrooms with soap at Doherty.
Yeah.
We don't have that. Like that's disgusting. So like that kind of stuff. So I think that's a really important thing for people to know. Tell us about your experience at Burncoat. Like what kind of things did you do? And like what would you say about the school, like reflecting back?
Okay, I actually need to think about this one. My experience at Burncoat, let's see. So, Burncoat Middle, my older brother Terrence went to the school before me, so I kind of had some expectations about what the school might be like. Overall, I wouldn't say it was like anything special at Burncoat Middle specifically. I played basketball in 8th grade. The year afterwards, they actually, like, you weren't allowed to play basketball at the high school anymore. So I played basketball for a little bit while running track and field. I did both at the same time, which you're not supposed to do, but I did. So that was cool. And then going into high school, again, not really any expectations. Growing up, I always like playing football and basketball, so that's what I thought I was going to do. So I started playing football, and then to stay in shape for track and field. What? No, that's not what I meant to say. To stay in shape for football, I started running track and field. So it wasn't like anything serious, and I never really took it seriously. Like I'd run for like Snickers bars, so my coach would motivate me that way.
Stickers bar.
Yeah,
Tell
Snickers
us
bars.
about that. What did your coach do? How do you set up that incentive?
So he was just like, if you can run this 400 in like 60 seconds, I was in like 8th grade. He's like, if you can run this 400 in like 60 seconds, I'll give you like a Snickers bar or like a
Wow.
pack of Snickers bars.
Oh, not him giving you treats.
I know seniors
my
on the
coach never
Doherty
did that
track
to
team
me.
that can't run a 400 in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
And you were doing that in 8th grade?
Yeah, but I was like, so yeah, I didn't have a lot of money, so like a Snickers bar at the time was like a really like, it was worth a lot to me.
Yeah.
Currency.
So yeah, I did that, and then he took me to a meet. It was like, I forgot, it was somewhere, I have no idea where, but he took me to a meet, and like I ran like a really fast time. I was like hurt, but I still like ran pretty fast. So he was like, oh, we might have something here. So that was that. But yeah, I was still playing football. I stopped playing basketball because I wanted to focus more on track and field. I was still playing football up until my junior year. And my junior year was going to be my last year, but on the last game of junior year on Thanksgiving, I lacerated my liver, which is like an inside bruise on your liver, essentially. So I lacerated my liver. It was on Thanksgiving, so I couldn't eat. So that really sucked.
Yeah.
But, so I guess that's like my athletic endeavors. Other than that, I got really into solving Rubik's Cubes. I had a friend, his
Me
name was
too.
Non. Yeah, I know, Oris is really good at solving cubes,
Non?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Non. So me and him, we had a homeroom together, and we had study hall. I forgot what they call it, study hall. We had study hall together, and essentially we just like solve Rubik's Cubes and like mess around. So he like taught me how to solve a Rubik's Cube, so I did that. He was also really good at making paper swords, so he'd make like these like really realistic paper swords.
Yeah.
And one year for my birthday, he actually like made me a paper sword, which was like really cool.
That's dope.
What else did I do? I did a lot of things. I like high school is not serious to me, but yeah, it was just a lot of messing around, a lot of just being stupid. So yeah.
So, as a student of Worcester Public Schools, is there anything you would change about your experience? Don't laugh.
Yeah, so we don't get funding. We're sitting at a bench right now where like one of the wood planks is just gone for no reason.
And you guys said this was just redone last year, right?
I mean, when I was here, it was like a new bench, and now it's like ruined. One time, I'm not gonna say, whatever. Yeah, so like I remember there was like a piece of like tile. I was sitting in a classroom,
No, are you?
and a
I know
piece of like
exactly what you're talking about.
a piece of like roof tile fell on this kid named. Like literally a
To
piece
evoke
of
his name.
yeah, a piece of roof just like fell on like his head.
I
I
hope
was
he
just
sued the school system.
like, nah, he
He
didn't.
did not.
You've been very, very. You've kind of undershot how good you are at track. Like you,
Oh.
you didn't. I feel like you're being very humble here. But tell us a bit about your transition from high school to college and what your life has been like in that. Well, first of all, what college are you going to?
Yeah, so I attend Harvard University in Cambridge. So yeah. But my transition, you said, from high school to college?
Academically, what was that like?
Oh, academically? Yeah, so in high school, like, I'm gonna be completely, I did not try that hard. I was just, like, really, like, naturally smart. So, like, I just got good grades without, like, really trying.
Ooh.
So then going to, like, Harvard, like, you actually had to try. So, like, doing homework at home for, like, 4 or 5 hours a day was like nothing. I like had never done that before, so it was like a really like big like shock. But honestly, my freshman fall semester didn't go too bad. It was like pretty easy, to be honest. It was just a little bit different with the academic transition. Just I actually having to do work. But in terms of like living on campus and things like that, it wasn't really that different. I was always like pretty independent as a like kid, I guess. Just because I lived in like a single parent household, so like, and a lot of times my mom was at work, so it was kind of like I did whatever I wanted to do anyways. So it wasn't like that much of a difference.
How do you feel like your community in Worcester helped get you to the place where you are now?
For sure, like I was mentioning earlier, so my mom would work in the mornings, or no, she worked in the afternoon. Basically, she couldn't give me rides to and from school, so I'd have to rely on people to give me rides, like back from practice, essentially. And without some of those people, there's like literally no way I would have been able to do sports, just because I had no ways of getting like back like from practice, and like I also didn't have money to like take the bus or something like that. I was like I didn't have any money at all. So like certain people, I remember when I was in 8th grade, His name was, what was it? I had it in my head. I was about to say it.
Mm-hmm.
It was Taurus. His name was Taurus. Terrence knows him. You probably don't know him, but his name was Taurus. His mom used to give me rides. Kevin Asarifi, if you know who that is. You
His
know who
name
Kevin
sounds
is?
familiar.
Yeah, Kevin used to give me rides as well. And just like a whole bunch of different people. My coach, Coach Nickel, John Nickel, used to also give me rides too, like from practice. So without those people, like I literally wouldn't be here. And also Coach Nickel taking me to and from meets, like paying for entry fees because a lot of times we didn't get funding. So paying for entry fees. He drove me to nationals all 4 years that I did it, and that's in North Carolina. So that's like a 12-hour drive. And he paid for a lot of that out of pocket. So
Wow.
yeah, in general, like without him, I would not be at Harvard. So yeah, I definitely was not me. Like if I didn't have help, I would not be where I am now. So
Shout out to those people, man. That's amazing.
yeah, for sure,
Really takes a village.
it's dope.
So, as an athlete, what's your thoughts on how the NCAA sets regulations for the students?
Yeah, so I think it's like modern day slavery, to be honest. It makes no sense that like you can't, or before that you couldn't make money off of your own name, but like the NCAA is making like billions of dollars off of you, and they have like so much autonomy over like what you can and cannot do, what type of content you can and cannot make. Specifically, like some of like the SEC schools, like are making like literally billions, like literally billions of dollars for like these schools, and like everybody else is getting paid, but the people actually doing the labor, like the student athletes, it makes no sense.
There are some states even where like the coach is like the highest paid like employee in the
Oh, easily.
state or
Yeah.
something.
Easy.
Oh, and like a
Yeah.
majority of colleges, like multi-million-dollar salaries.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's like literally ridiculous. It's like they can get paid, right? And like they're like risking their like bodies, like their time, their effort, their money. A lot of these people, like specifically talking about football, like are going to NFL and they're doing like literally the same exact thing, but now they're getting paid like they're supposed to. But then in college they can't because like people think it's unfair. I hear a lot of the time the argument where it's like, oh well, these people are on scholarship, and it's like that's like $50,000, and they're making like their school like billions. Like it's not even close to being equivalent or fair. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Another thing, I remember I was watching this guy. I think his name was not Ryan Park. That's another guy. But this guy Ryan Trahan, I want to say, he was a cross country athlete. And he had a business, he had a YouTube channel, and at a point, the school made him choose between cross country, and he was like a D1 athlete versus his YouTube channel where he was making money, and eventually just dropped out of school entirely.
Yeah.
And like it sucks that like colleges are putting students in this kind of position where it's like, do like your own side business, build your brand versus being a student and being involved in the sport you love. Like I don't think colleges should ever put students in that kind of position. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they're only doing it for money. Is the only reason why they're doing it. So money drives like a lot of like college issues, all of them. So yeah. I remember the one time there's this lady when I was like trying to get on the bus like to go to school, and they really wanted me to like show them my bus pass, and I'm like, I'm like a 15-year-old kid, like I just want to go to school, and like it was like 12 degrees outside and snowing, and they didn't let me on the bus.
Wow.
But then like the next bus stop, like they let another white kid on the bus who didn't have his bus pass, and it was just like, what is that about? A lot of times there's just like no ceiling tiles, like period. There's asbestos, like the water is not drinkable. It's just like I guess it's just lack of funding. So maybe like when we pay taxes, like the taxes should go towards like schools and like public schools, and not just like other things that I don't care about, I should say, personally. So yeah, that's something I would change for sure.
Given the time in which we're filming this, our nation is also currently like filled with protests all over the country around the issue of police brutality, and also specifically around the issue of race in this country. So do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah, so a black identifying male. Obviously, the recent death of George Floyd hit me really hard because, one, there's been this issue for 6 or so years, since 2014, starting with Trayvon Martin, of black people being killed for no reason. But I want to specify and like focus in specifically on police brutality. Specifically, black people are targeted more than like any other race or ethnicity in terms of like being more likely to be killed by the police. So it's people that look like me are being unjustly murdered for basically no reason. It's like really scary because yes, I have all these different identities, but when I'm pulled over for like a routine traffic stop or when I'm doing something, the police officer is the police officer is not seeing that. Instead, they're just seeing like a black man, and for whatever reason, they're afraid. I don't want to just center this on like black men. They're like black trans people that are like facing violence like every single day, like being discriminated against, being killed for no reason. Like Black Woman X, Breonna Taylor, like the people who killed her killers still aren't in jail. So they're like, it's like a multifaceted issue that just needs to be addressed like as a whole. Recently, there have also been like some suicides that have happened like around the country. And they're not suicides. They're people like literally being lynched in like 2020, which I think is like ridiculous. So then there's also like, and with the protests, like there are people that are upset that like people are rioting, but then like you have the KKK like walking around in like their little like mask, like with fire and stuff, waving it, and like the only point of their group is like white supremacy. But that's, for some reason, that's okay. But then like people protesting will get like tear gas thrown at them and like beat up and like cars run into them. It's just like being a black person in America, like seeing stuff like that is really frustrating because it's like you choose what you want to care about and like what narrative fits at like any specific time. So it's like people are being lynched, nobody cares, like literally no one cares, like nobody's really talking about it, nothing's being done, and like you have KKK rallies and stuff like that. So in general, like these are all issues that like black people face, and it's much more than this, but this is like in the time frame of this interview, something I just wanted to like say.
And it's just so sad and frustrating too, because there's always like an excuse that's found. Facts. Right? Like when you look at like the situation that recently happened in Atlanta, Rayshard Brooks, I believe was the name.
Yes, sir.
And like people will be like, oh well, he was drunk, oh he was this, oh he was that, he shouldn't have done this, right? And it's like
he shouldn't have died.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that. Like no matter how you look at it, this was a situation. He offered to walk home. Like he legit said like, I'll just walk home. Like, so even if you want to mention like he was driving, like he was in a parking lot asleep, offered to walk home. He told the officers like, I'll just go home to my sister's or my aunt's place or whatever. And I don't like that kind of situation should never end up lethal. Like it's just so frustrating.
Shot in the back.
Yeah, it's
unnecessary. Executed. You shouldn't have the power to execute someone when you want. You didn't fear for your life. The man was running away. But all right, I guess that's it.
And the thing about that too is, and people look at like what's happening in the country. They're like, oh, I don't understand why people are just mad about just this one incident, this one they're just cops, just bad apples or whatever, right? But like, first of all, cops are dealing with human beings on a day-to-day basis. Like any job where someone's life is on the line, and other person's life, like we require a really high standard. We look at doctors, like people will get sued for malpractice if some shit happens that's wrong and it's their fault. If someone dies and it's your fault, like you're losing your license. If you're a pilot and you mess up, like that's not okay. But then somehow when it comes to cops, it's like, oh well, they have so many incidents, they have so many good scenarios that happen, so many good situations. Like that's not what we're talking about. You're handling human lives in your hand every day. We expect better.
And there's so many videos of people like getting killed that you don't see. Like that, I promise you, there's been people that have like died and it's been covered up. And like the only difference is that now we're recording it. But there's been so many instances where people have probably been killed, and like on the police report it says they were resisting, killed. So, I mean, that's America, I guess. It's really sad. It really is sad and frustrating, especially to like live in the country like that. But
how do you feel like your different like social identities, specifically like the intersections of your different identities, have really shaped your experience as a student, but also just like in every aspect of your life?
Yeah, so social identities, obviously I do track and field, so I'm an athlete. A lot of the times there's like a negative stigma with athletes, like we're not smart or we're not like capable of like being intellectual as well. Like, and obviously like it's very hard to be an athlete on campus just because you're sorry, there's a bug. Just because you have like 20 hours of like practice / other events a week. Some weekends you travel, so like it's hard to like keep up on work and things like that. So these are all things that like affect athletes in general. Specifically, the stigmas is something that's like very like annoying. So sometimes like you'll be in class or you'll be in section, and a professor feels like, or a TF or a TA feels like they can talk to you in a certain way or give you like a worse grade because they feel like you'd be okay with that. Especially like with the way I look, I have dreadlocks. I'm a black man. Like they're like, oh, he probably doesn't care about his grades. So I've had many times where I'm in like a class and I can tell that like they're giving me a certain grade because they feel like I'd be okay with the grade, more so I didn't earn the grade. And it's like once you like talk to the professor, the teacher, or whoever, they kind of like respect you more. So then they like give you better grades or like allow you to do better. And it's like it shouldn't be like that. Also, another thing with that it's kind of frustrating is when somebody gets in for like doing something else or like music or like they're really like a talented artist or some other talent that they have, there's not like a stigma like where they're like not as smart. Instead, it's like seen as like, oh yeah, they have like this really cool talent and like they deserve to get in because of that. For athletes, I feel like a lot of times people don't really register that as like a really cool talent or something. They just feel like, oh, like they're in the school now and they're getting free money. And one thing, if you didn't know, Harvard doesn't do scholarships, so like I don't have to run track and field anymore if I didn't want to. Like I can just stop.
So I think like especially because a lot of WVRI's like followers are like college age, about to start college, or like in the middle of college, or maybe you just graduated college. We also wanted to talk about some social issues that are really present on like college campuses, specifically thinking about like content warning, like the issue of sexual assault and consent on campuses. Would you say at Harvard there's like a culture of consent and where like people feel comfortable having like sexual activity without having their safety compromised?
Yeah, so when you first enter the college as a first year, they do give you like training for 2 or so weeks. It's called like orientation, where they like go over consent and things like that. But it's kind of like very cursory, and I don't really feel like it's effective in like actually getting people to like not commit sexual violence on campus. Recently there was this page that came out called How Harvard Failed Me, where essentially survivors and people that were victims of this sexual violence were able to tell their stories in an anonymous fashion, and people were being outed and whatnot. And just seeing those stories, it seems like the campus has not done a good job of facilitating people feeling safe in sexual encounters, which is like really disappointing. And on top of that, the organization that's supposed to be in place that's supposed to like stop and prevent things like this, Title IX, is not very responsive when it comes to these things. Oftentimes you'll go to them and they'll tell you there's nothing they can do, or that it'll take too long so you can't do anything, or they're too worried about preserving somebody's reputation because they might donate in the future because they have a lot of money, they're like affluent. So I feel like in general there's not really, people cannot feel safe on campus, specifically black women.
What do you think we as students can do to push colleges to do a better job of protecting students who have been violated on campus or off campus?
Yeah, so a couple things on that. First, a lot of people do not even know what consent is, because people like the sexual health education in high school systems especially are like, yeah, they just, people don't really teach you what to do. So I know nobody taught me like what consent was. Obviously I have common sense, right? Which consent is really just common sense. But yeah, so they don't teach you anything. So a lot of people coming into college are like, one, sexually inexperienced, so they don't like know what to do or like how encounters are supposed to look like, because it's not taught in school. And two, the training that they give you is like very much so like you're being forced to do this, so like people are not really like understanding or taking in what's being said. So then it just leads to like these like unfortunate like sexual like encounters that are like not safe for people. So when people think of like sexual like assault or sexual violence or like rape, they think of like very violent like forceful rape, but a lot of the times it's like coercion, or like you like get too drunk at a party and like you want to like take somebody home, and like that's not okay because they're not like well enough to consent. They're not like, what is the word,
cognizant,
lucid.
Yeah, well, basically they can't consent because they're just too drunk. Things like power dynamics, so someone that like is in a position of power and like they feel like they have to have sex with somebody because like it'll help them like advance their career or like do whatever they want to do. Things like that like are all sexual assault, like rape, violence. Touching people at parties, I know a lot of times people like to just go behind people at parties and start dancing. That's also like sexual assault. Like you can't do that. Like catcalling, that's like harassment. Things like that are all like very like important things that people don't really think of. When people think of rape, they just think of like, oh, somebody just pinned you down and like had sex with you. And yes, that happens, but a lot of the times it's like a lot more nuanced than that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it's also important to like understand that everyone, like men, women, like any gender, any any, I guess like if it's a spectrum of understanding like what consent is and what's not, like at any point you can still commit harm, and like it's not something that any of us are like, I guess immune to. Yeah. Like any of us could commit harm because it's just a matter of like knowing and not knowing and like learning and unlearning.
Yeah, you never know when somebody might be uncomfortable or like how they might feel about a certain act or something. You maybe thought you were more comfortable with somebody than you actually were, so it's just like very dependent.
And I think a lot of times people are scared to make things awkward by communicating or being very clear, but I don't think that should be a problem. I think communication should be like your number one goal when you are in any sort of relationship, especially with sexual contact, because like you have to understand where you and your partner or partners are in any given situation. I feel like people are scared to like say it out loud because that'll somehow change it, but it doesn't. Like if you are going to take some sort of step, I feel like people need to be aware that you need to make sure that it's consensual on all sides. So for our closing segment, we just want to know what you guys' favorite thing about Worcester is.
Yeah, so there's a very like dense Ghanaian population here in Worcester. And I know at Harvard, like it's mostly run by like Nigerians. It's like a really big like NSA association, so it's kind of nice to like come back home and see like so many Ghanaians and so much Ghanaian culture.
That's what's up. I was gonna say the same thing, but I think on top of that, I think it's nice to claim superiority on jollof rice in this city. I think between Ghanaians and Nigerians, I think every Ghanaian in Worcester will agree that Ghanaian jollof is superior, so that's something that I really resonate with.
I know Chrome.
And Gold Coast. Shout out to Gold Coast. Their food is bomb.
Yeah, I know Chrome.
My favorite thing?
About the
I'm
city.
gonna shoot it to Evan first.
Okay.
Our cameraman. What's your favorite thing, Evan?
I guess my friend.
Friends in the city?
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you?
Friends too. My friend's right there in the car waiting to pick me up. So.
All right. And I guess with that, we'll close it out. You've been listening to WVRI TV. I've been Kweku.
I'm Diana.
I'm the guest, Rodney.
Peace out.
Peace out, y'all.
Yeah.